everyone, welcome back to Maths Nation. Today we're going to be going through the 2024 June Paper 3 Calculator Foundation Tier paper. We'll be going through each and every question step by step to make sure that we get full marks. Let's get into it. Question 1 says, write 23% as a fraction. Well, we know that percent is out of 100, and so it's going to be 23 out of 100. Question 2 says, change 800 centimeters to meters. Well, we know that 1 meter is 100 centimeters, and so to get to 800 we multiply by 8, and so we do the same thing to the other side, and so 800 centimeters is 8 meters. Question 3 says, write down the value of 3 in the number 62,837. Well, we can see, so the 3 is in the tens column, and so the answer is 30. Question 4 says, simplify 7a plus a minus 5a. So 7a plus a is equal to 8a, and then 8a minus 5a gives us 3a. Question 5 says, write down the following fractions in order of size. Start with the smallest fraction. Now, we can get the denominators to be the same, or we can just put the fractions into our calculator to see what the decimals are. So if we put 1/2 into our calculator, we get 0.5. If we get 2/3 into our calculator, that's 0.6 recurring. And if we put 1/4 into your calculator, that's 0.25. And so if we start with the smallest fraction, it's 1/4, then 1/2, and then 2/3. Question 6 says, a map has a scale of 1 centimeter to represent 4 kilometers. On the map, the distance from town A to town B is 8 centimeters. Work out the real distance in kilometers from town A to town B. So we know that 1 centimeter represents 4 kilometers, and the distance on the map is 8. And so to get from 1 to 8, we multiply by 8. And so we've got to do the same thing to the other side. So 4 times 8, 8, 16, 24, 32 kilometers. And so the real distance is 32 kilometers. Question B says, the real length of a road is 10 kilometers. Work out the length of the road on the map. Give the units of your answer. So we know that 1 centimeter is 4 kilometers. And we need to work out what 10 kilometers is going to look like. So we ask ourselves, how do you go from 10 to 4? We're going backwards in our ratio, so we're going to divide. So that's 10 divided by 4, which is equal to 2.5. And so the answer is 2.5 centimeters. Question 7 says, Julie asks some students how they travel to school. The chart shows her results. Question A asks, write down which method of travel is the mode. So the mode is the most common. And so the most common mode of transport from the graph we can see is bus with 9 students. Part B says, more students walk to school than cycles to school. How many more? So we can see from the graph that 8 students walk and 3 students cycle. So 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. So 5 more students walk than cycle. Question 8 says, Aisha was born in 1993. There was an election in the year of Aisha's 18th birthday. There is an election every 5 years. Will there be an election in 2030? You must show how you get your answer. Well, the first thing that we can do is work out what the current year is. So that's 1993 plus the 18 years, and that gives us 2011. So we know that there's been an election in 2011, and there's an election every 5 years. And so the election years are going to be 2011, 2016, 2021, 2026, and 2031. So from this list, we can see that there will not be an election in 2030. So the answer is no. Question 9 says, Lucia is going on a skiing holiday. The cost of ski hire is £26 per day. The cost of a lift pass is £45 per day. The cost of ski lessons is £23.50 per hour. Lucia will pay for ski hire for 5 days, a lift pass for 4 days, ski lessons for 8 hours. Lucia has £500. Show that Lucia has enough money to pay for the total cost of ski hire, the lift pass, and ski lessons. So let's start with the ski hire. So she's hiring the skis for 5 days and it's £26 per day. So 5 times 26 is equal to 130. Then a lift pass. So a lift pass, she's going to have it for 4 days and that's £45 per day. And that's £180. And then finally, ski lessons. She does it for 8 hours and it's £23.50 per hour. And that's equal to £188. And so if we add all of this together, the total that is spent is equal to £498. We know that Lucia has 500, so 500 minus the 498 gives her £2 change. Question 10 says, here is a circle. Part A is asking us, on the diagram above, draw a radius of the circle. So a radius is anything from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. So we can just draw a straight line from the center to the edge, and that will be our radius, and we call that R. Part B says, write down the mathematical name for the straight line inside the circle. So any line that touches 2 points on the circle that does not go through the center is known as a chord. Question 11 says, there are 8 episodes in a TV series. Each episode lasts 45 minutes. Work out the total time that the 8 episodes last. Give your answer in hours. So the total in minutes is 8 times 45 minutes, which is equal to 360 minutes. The questions asked us to give our answer in hours, and so we're going to do 360 minutes divided by 60, and that gives us 6 hours. Question 12 says, write down 3 prime numbers that are between 20 and 40. So prime numbers are numbers that are only divisible by themselves and 1. And there are actually 4 numbers between 20 and 40 that are prime numbers. They are 23, 29, 31, and 37. All 4 of these numbers are only divisible by 1 and themselves. And so we can pick 3. We'll just pick the first 3. That's 23, 29, and 31. Question 13 says, James asks students in year 10 and year 11 to name their favorite language from French or German or Spanish. The two-way table shows information about his results. Complete the two-way table. So the first place we can start is with the actual totals. We have the total amount of students, which is 207, and we know that the year 11 total is 113, and so if we minus them, that's 207 minus 113, and that's equal to 94. And so the total number of year 10 students is 94. We can then work out the number of year 10 students that prefer German, so we call that German in year 10, and that's going to be the total, which is 94 minus 34 minus 33, and that is equal to 27, and so we can put 27 here. We can then work out the total for German, so the total German is going to be 27 plus 45, and that's equal to 72. We can then work out the total for French, which is going to be 207. So total French is equal to 207 minus 67 minus 72, and that's equal to 68. So now we have all of our totals. We can then work out the number of year 11 students that prefer French. So we'll call that French year 11, and that's going to be 68 minus 33, which is equal to 35. And then finally, the number of Year 11 students that prefer Spanish. So Spanish Year 11 is 67 minus 34, which is equal to 33. And that's our answer. Question 14 says, the table gives information about the drinks people ordered in a cafe. Draw an accurate pie chart for this information. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work out the total number of people. So that's 30 plus 10 plus 50. That's 90 people in total. The next thing that we know is that the total number of degrees in a circle or around a point is 360. And so to work out how many degrees each of these coffee, hot chocolate, and tea are going to represent, we do 30 divided by the total, which is 90, multiplied by 360. And that is equal to 120 degrees. For hot chocolate, we do the same thing. That's 10 divided by 90, multiplied by 360. And that is equal to 40. And then finally, tea is 50 divided by 90, the total, multiplied by 360. And that's equal to 200. And we can check our answer that 120 plus 40 plus 200 should equal 360, and it does. Great. The next thing that we need to do is we need to draw our pie chart. So we're going to use a compass for this. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to estimate how the pie chart is going to look. But for your exam, make sure to place 0 at this point here, and then work your way either clockwise or anti-clockwise. And so, for example, hot chocolate would be roughly 40 degrees, which is here. And then tea is 200. So we know the straight line is 180, so it's going to be greater than that. So maybe here. And so we're going to have hot chocolate, tea, and coffee. Question 15 says, which is greater, 15% of 88 or 20% of 62? You must show all your working. So the first thing that we can do is we can change our percentages into decimal places and then put them into our calculator. So 15% is the same as saying 0.15 because you divide by 100. And so 15% of 88 is 88 multiplied by 0.15, and that's equal to 13.2. If we do the same thing for 20%, we know that 20%, again, dividing by 100 gives us 0.2. And so 62 multiplied by 0.2 gives us 12.4. So clearly, we can see that 15% of 88 is greater. So this is greater. Question 16a says, simplify m times m times m times m. So we know that if you have two numbers or letters that multiply each other, we can write the indices. So it's 4 of them. So that's m to the power of 4. Question B says, in a competition, a player gets 5 points for each game they win, 2 points for each game they draw, and 0 points for each game they lose. Amy wins X games and draws Y games. Write down an expression in terms of X and Y for the total number of points Amy gets. So we know that a win is X, so we can label a win X. And again, from the question, we know that a draw represents Y. And so we can call that Y. And as we get 0 points for each game they lose, we don't have to worry about games that they lose. So you get 5 points for a win. So it's 5 times X, which is 5X. And you get 2 points for a draw. So it's 2 multiplied by Y for every draw. And so our expression is 5X plus 2Y. Question 17 says, here are the ingredients needed to make 20 shortbread biscuits. Heidi wants to make 30 shortbread biscuits. How much of each ingredient will Heidi need? Well, we have the ingredients for 20 shortbread biscuits, and so we can work out the grams we need for one shortbread biscuit. And we do that by dividing by 20. So for butter, To get one shortbread biscuit, it's 120 divided by the 20 shortbreads, and that's equal to 6. So we need 6 grams for one. If we do the same thing for flour, we know we need 200 grams for 20 shortbread biscuits, and so we need 10 grams for one. And finally, for sugar, we have 50 grams for 20, and so 50 divided by 20 shortbread biscuits gives us 2.5 grams. So these are the ingredients we need for one shortbread biscuit, and so we want 30, so we multiply by 30. So 6 times 30, 10 times 30, and 2.5 times 30. So 6 times 30 is 180 grams. 10 times 30 is 300 grams. And 2.5 times 30 is 75 grams. So we need 180 grams of butter, 300 grams of flour, and 75 grams of sugar. Question 18 says, on the grid above, rotate this shape 180 degrees about 0, 0. Now, if we think about this, rotating something 180 degrees is just flipping it or doing the mirror image. And so our new image is going to look something like this. And our center is 0, 0. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the distance for each point. So this point here is 2, 2. And so we go opposite direction, and it's going to be here. If we do the same thing for each of the other coordinates, we have 1, 4, and so we're going to have -1, -4 as a straight line. We have 4, 2, and so we'll have -4, -2, and then finally we have 5, 4 from the center, and so we'll have -5, -4, which will be here. So if we draw our new shape, it will look something like this. Part B says, Mike was asked to reflect shape A in the line with equation x is equal to 3. Mike's answer is shown on the grid. His answer is wrong. Explain why. Well, if we actually draw the equation x is equal to 3, it will be this line here. However, Mike has reflected his shape in the line here, and that is y is equal to 3. And so our explanation is going to be he has reflected shape A in the line with equation y is equal to 3, not x is equal to 3. Question 19 says, on the grid below, draw the graph y is equal to 3x minus 2 for values of x from -2 to 3. So we're going to draw our table for our coordinates. We have our x coordinate and our y coordinates. And we've been told that we need to draw the graph for x values from -2 to 3. So that's -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So now we just need to work out what the y values are. When we have the equation, it's y is equal to 3x minus 2. So we're going to plug in our x values. So if x is equal to -2, then it's y is equal to 3 times -2 minus 2. That's 6 minus 2, which is -6, minus 2, which is -8. So when x equals -2, y is equal to -8. When x is equal to -1, y is equal to 3 times -1 minus the 2. That's -3 minus 2, which is -5. When x is equal to 0, y is equal to 3 times 0, which is 0, minus 2, which is just -2. When x is equal to 1, y is equal to 3 times 1, which is 3, minus 2, which is 1. And when x is equal to 2, y is equal to 3 times 2 minus 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, minus 2 is 4. And finally, when x is equal to 3, y is equal to 3 times 3 minus 2. That's 9 minus 2, which is 7. Great. So now we have our coordinates. All we need to do is plot our graph and then join the line. So our first point is minus 2 minus 8. That's here. Minus 1 minus 5. Here. 0 minus 2. 1, 1, 2, 4, and 3, 7. And so if we get our ruler and connect the dots, we have a straight line that looks like that. Question 20 says ABC and BCD are isosceles triangles. AB is equal to BC, which is equal to CD. Angle CAB is 81 degrees. Angle BCD is 4 times the angle ABC. Find the ratio of the size of angle ABC to the size of angle CBD. Give your answer in the form 1 to n. You must show all of your working. So the first thing that we can do is we know that this angle here is also going to be 81 degrees because it's an isosceles triangle, and the two lines that are the same, i.e. AB and BC, therefore the angles BAC and ACB are going to be the same. So that means that we can work out this angle here, which is ABC. So angle ABC is the total angles in a triangle, which is 180 minus 81 minus 81, and that is equal to 18 degrees. So this angle here, ABC, is 18 degrees. The next thing that we know is that angle BCD, which is this angle here, is 4 times the angle of ABC. So BCD is 18 degrees multiplied by 4, and that's equal to 72. So this angle here is 72 degrees. The next thing that we can work out are these two angles. Because again, this is an isosceles triangle, these two angles are going to be the same. And so we can say angle CBD, which is equal to angle BDC, is equal to 180, the total number of angles in a triangle, minus the 72, and then divide by 2, because it's two angles. And that will equal 54. So we have the ratio of ABC to CBD. We know that ABC is 18 degrees. And we know that CBD we've just worked out as 54. Now we need to give our answer in the form 1 to n, where n is an integer. So we're going to divide both sides by 18. And so 18 divided by 18 is 1, and 54 divided by 18 is 3. So our answer is 1 to 3. Question 21a says factorize 6x minus 15. So we need to find numbers or letters that are common in both 6x and 15. So that's going to be 3. So we can take 3 out. That leaves us with 2x minus 5. So our answer is 3 multiplied by 2x minus 5. Part B says factorize m squared plus 5m. So again, we're going to look for commonalities between m squared and 5m. So we know that both have m, and that leaves us with m plus 5, and that's our answer. So m multiplied by m plus 5. Question 22 says find the highest common factor of 63 and 105. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to find the prime factors of both numbers. So that's going to be 63 can be broken down into 7 times 9. 7 is a prime number, so we're going to circle it. And then 9 can be further broken down into 3 times 3, both of which are prime numbers. If we do the same thing for 105, well, we know that 21 times 5 gives us 105. 5 is a prime number, so we're going to circle it. And then 21 can be broken down into 7 times 3, both of which are also prime numbers. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to find which numbers both 63 and 105 share. So we have 7 and 7, 3 and 3. And so we say 7 times 3, which is 21. So the highest common factor is 21. 23a part 1 says write 5.3 times 10 to the power 4 as an ordinary number. So the indice on our power is positive, and so we're going to move the decimal place to the right hand side. So that's 5.3, and we're going to move it 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so our answer is 53,000. Part 2 says write 7.4 times 10 to the minus 5 as an ordinary number. So our indice is negative, so we're going to move the decimal place to the left. So we're going to move it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so our answer is 0.00074. Part B says calculate the value of 9.7 times 10 to the power of 6 plus 2.45 times 10 to the power of 7. Give your answer in standard form. And so if we put that into our calculator, we'll get 34,200,000. Now the question is asking us to put our answer into standard form, and so we need to make sure that the first number is a non-zero number. In our case, it's going to be 3. So we move our decimal place to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so our answer is going to be 3.42 times 10 to the power of 7. Question 24 says the diagram shows a solid triangular prism. Rana is trying to draw the side elevation of the solid prism from the direction of the arrow. Here is her answer on a centimeter grid. Question A says explain why Rana's side elevation is not correct. Well, the side elevation from the direction of the arrow is just this, and the line at the top. And so Rana is saying that this length here is equal to this length here, which is 4 centimeters. We're going to use Pythagoras' theorem to show that that just can't be correct. So we know that this length here is going to be half of 6, so that's 3 centimeters. And Pythagoras' theorem says a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, where c is the hypotenuse, or the longest line, in our case 4. So if we say that a is equal to 3, that's 3 squared plus b squared, which we don't know, is equal to 4 squared. 3 squared is 9, plus b squared is equal to 4 squared, which is 16. And therefore b squared is equal to 16 minus 9. B squared is equal to 7. And therefore b is equal to root 7. And so root 7 is not equal to 4. Part B says, on the centimeter grid below, draw a plan of the solid prism. So a plan is just going to be a bird's eye view. So if we take a look at our prism, and so we're going to be looking at it from this angle here, a bird's eye view. And so we can see that it's going to be a rectangular shape, like so. And we have a line in the middle. This length at the top is going to be 7, representing this length here. And this length here is going to be 6 centimeters. And the line in the middle cuts exactly into 2. So if we draw this onto our centimeter grid, we can start here. It's 7 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 6 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so our rectangle looks like this. And we know that we have a line directly in the middle, which is 3 centimeters down. And so it's going to look like that. Again, in your exam, make sure to use a ruler to make sure that your lines are straight. Question 25 says, a company has 25,000 workers. The number of workers increases at a rate of 6% per year for 3 years. Calculate the total number of workers at the end of the 3 years. So as we see, it says it increases by 6% every single year. So we're dealing with compound interest. So the general formula for compound interest is A multiplied by 1 plus I, which is the interest rate, in our case 6%, to the power of n, which is the number of years, in our case 3. So A is the initial amount, that's 25,000 workers. I is the interest rate of 6%. Now, to put it into our calculator, we're going to change it into a decimal place. So that's going to be 6 over 100, which is equal to 0.06. And n is equal to 3. So if we plug this into our equation, we have 25,000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.06 to the power of 3, and that is equal to 29,775.4. Now you can't have 0.4 of a worker, so we're going to have 29,775 at the end of the 3 years. Question 26 says, Habib has 2 identical tins. He puts 600 grams of flour into one of the tins. The flour fills the tin completely. The density of the flour is 0.6 grams per centimeters cubed. Habib puts 600 grams of salt into the other tin. The salt does not fill the tin completely. The volume of the space in the tin that is not filled with salt is 700 centimeters cubed. Work out the density of the salt. You must show all your working. Well, as we know that the flour fills the tin completely, and so we can work out the volume of the tin. So we know that density is equal to mass over volume, and therefore volume is equal to mass over density. And so the volume of the tin is equal to the mass, which is 600 grams, over the density of the flour, which is 0.6, and that's equal to 1,000 centimeters cubed. So that's the total of the tin. The 2 tins are identical, which means the second tin is also 1,000 centimeters cubed. The question says that the volume of the space in the tin that is not filled with the salt is 700, and so the volume that is the salt is volume of salt is going to be 1,000 minus the 700 that's not filled, and so we have 300 centimeters cubed of salt. Therefore, we can work out the density of salt, and that's going to be the mass of the salt, which is 600 grams, over the density of the salt, which is 300, and so the density is 2 grams per centimeters cubed. Question 27 says, Tim has 2 biased coins, coin A and coin B. He's going to throw both coins. The probability that coin A will land on heads is 0.6. The probability that coin B will land on heads is 0.55. Complete the probability tree diagram. So we know that probability is out of 1. So for coin A, if the probability that landing on heads is 0.6, then the probability that it doesn't land on heads is 1 minus 0.6, which is 0.4. For coin B, we do the same thing. 1 minus the 0.55 gives us 0.45. That's the probability that it does not land on heads. And for the bottom triangle, it's going to be the same thing. The probability that it lands on heads for coin B is 0.55, and the probability that it does not land on heads is 0.45. Tim throws coin A once and he throws coin B once. Work out the probability that coins both land on heads. So the probability that coin A lands on heads is here, and then the probability that coin B lands on heads is here. As it's asking for both coins, we're dealing with AND probability, and means multiply. So we know that 0.6 multiplied by 0.55 is equal to 0.33. And that's the probability that both coins land on heads. Question 28 says, a paddling pool is in the shape of a cylinder. The pool has radius 100 centimeters. The pool has depth 30 centimeters. The pool is empty. It is then filled with water at a rate of 250 centimeters cubed per second. Work out the number of minutes it takes to fill the pool completely. Give your answer correct to the nearest minute. You must show all your working. Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to work out the volume of the pool. And we do that by the formula volume of a cylinder, which is the shape of the pool, is equal to pi r squared multiplied by h. That's equal to 100 squared multiplied by pi multiplied by 30, and that's equal to 942,477.796, and so on, centimeters cubed. So we have the volume and we have the rate, which is 250 centimeters cubed per second, and so we can work out the time taken in seconds, which is going to be 942,477.796 divided by 250, and that's going to equal to 3,769.911 seconds. Now the question is asking us to work out to the nearest minute, so we're going to do 3,769.911 divided by 60 to give us minutes, and that's equal to 62.83. And we need to give the answer to the nearest minute, so that's 63 minutes. Question 29 says w is equal to 40 minus t squared. Calculate the value of w when t is equal to minus 5. So let's plug in minus 5 for t. That's w is equal to 40 minus 5 squared. W is equal to 40 minus 5 times minus 5 is 25. So that's 40 minus 25. So therefore W is equal to 15. Part B says P is equal to H minus 5 divided by 3. Make H the subject of the formula. So when something says to make something the subject of the formula, we need to make it equal to everything else. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the 3 to the other side. So if we rewrite our equation, that's H minus 5 over 3. We take the divide 3 to the other side and times 3. And so we have 3 times P is equal to H minus 5. So that's 3P is equal to H minus 5. And then the last step is to take the minus 5 to the other side, and that's going to be plus 5. And so we have H is equal to 3P plus 5. And that's our answer. And that brings us to the end of the paper. I hope that helped. I hope that you were able to follow through and understand how we tackled each and every question to make sure that we get full marks. Please do leave a comment down below to let me know if this helped and if you have any questions. And always make sure to like, share and subscribe and hit that notification bell.